Okay, today is October 13th, 2011. This is example 3 from page 114 in your blue notebook, okay? First off, it says to graph these 2 points. When we're graphing, always recall that x is the first, y is the second point, okay? So at x value of 3, y value of 5 come together. There's our point, 3 and 5. Call it point C. And point D, -5, which is here, and 1, they meet together here. Point D is at -5 and 1. So we have 2 points. That was A. Part B asks us to write the equation in standard form for the line that passes through these 2 points, beginning with point slope form. So if you guys remember, our point slope form was y2, y1 equals m times x2 minus x1. Okay? So our 2 points, C and D, we're going to number them so we know where to put them. We'll call C1 and D point 2. So this is my x1, y1. Whoa, that's a y. This is my x2, y2. Okay? So when I go to plug those in, y2 is here. So I have, oops, see that back. 1 subtract y1, which is 5. So 1 subtract 5 is equal to, we don't know the slope. In fact, that's what we're going to solve. x2 is -5. Subtract x1 is 3. So -5 subtract 3. Okay, so I'm going to carry out this equation. 1 subtract 5 is, good, -4. Still don't know what m is. -5 subtract 3, -8. Good. Now, the whole point of putting this in point slope form is so that we can figure out our slope. Okay? So we're going to find out the slope of this line. I'm going to move the -8 over. Because this says m times -8, when I move -8 over, we'll end up dividing by -8. So I'm going to divide both sides by -8. And we know that these two will cancel each other out, so we'll be left with just m is equal to, these are both negative, so it's going to be a positive answer, and I can reduce it to 1 over 2. So I now have slope, okay? So now that I've used my point slope form, now that I have slope, I can go into slope y-intercept. If you recall, that's y equals mx plus b. Well, the slope y-intercept, I know my slope, it's a half. We've already figured that out. So we can plug that in. Y is equal to 1/2 x plus b. I need to solve for b. And in order to do that, I use one of the points they've given me before. I can use either C or point D and its x and y value and plug them in for the x and y values here. So let's say we use equation 1. Okay, we'll use C. C was, again, 3 and 5. So I'm going to be plugging in 3 for my x and 5 for my y. Here's our x and our y. So 5 is equal to 1/2 times 3 plus b. Now b is the only variable left, so I can solve for b. 5 is equal to 3 over 2, or that's multiplying fractions, so I get 3 over 2 plus b. And I need b by itself, so I need to move 3 over 2 to the other side. So it will become negative on the other side. 5 subtract 3 over 2 equals b. Okay? Now, we're trying to find a y-intercept, so we have the option of leaving it as a fraction or a decimal. So what I'll do is I'll do the fraction on this side, and I'll do it in green as a decimal. Same question, okay? So or 5 minus 3 over 2, anyone know what that is a decimal? 1.5 equals b, okay? 5 minus 1.5? 3.5. If I do this as a fraction, I'd have to make 5 into a fraction, which is 5 over 1. And then I need a common denominator because I'm subtracting. So I would multiply the entire fraction by 2 because my common denominator needs to be 2. So I get 10 over 2 subtract 3 over 2 equals b, which is 7 over 2 is equal to b. Okay? Both of these are the exact same. This is just in fraction form. That's a decimal. So now that I have it, let's set up our equation back in our slope y-intercept form. Recall we said it was y equals mx plus b. We knew our slope was 1/2. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this in fraction form. Just because I know when I go to standard form, remember I want a positive whole number coefficient for a. It's going to be easier if I have these as fractions and then change it around. Okay? So my b, I'm going to use the 7 over 2. Now we need to go to standard form. And in order to change this to standard, I need to bring the y to the other side because I need to set it equal to 0. So we have y is equal to 1/2 x plus 7 over 2. When I bring y over, I get 0 is equal to 1/2 x plus 7 divided by 2, subtract y. Let's see how I use that for. And remember, we want a whole number for the coefficient in front of x. Now, because this is divided by 2, I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 2. And when I multiply the entire equation by 2, so that's every term in the equation. So 0 by 2, 1/2 by 2, 7 over 2 by 2, and y by 2. We're going to end up with a whole number. So 0 times 2 is 0. 1/2 times 2 is 1. 7 over 2 times 2? 7. That's right. The two 2's cancel each other out. So plus 7. And 2 times negative y? Negative 2y. And remember, standard form, we go x first. I don't need to put the 1 in. It's not that important. Minus 2y plus 7. So we are now in standard form. So let's take a look at everything we did. Oh, gosh. That's too small, eh? So, just to recap, we graphed our 2 points. We went to point slope form, plugged into our 2 points in the point slope form, and found slope. We then took the slope, put it into slope y-intercept form. So we replaced the m with it. Once we did that, we had our slope as 1/2. We took one of the points they gave us and substituted them in for the x and the y. And we solved for our b. These were either of our b. Then I put the b back into slope y-intercept form. Our slope was 1/2. Our b was 7 over 2. Then from slope y-intercept form, we went to standard form. I moved the y to the other side, so we got 0. And because we want a whole number that's positive in front of x, I multiplied the entire equation by 2. And we end up with 0 equals x minus 2y plus 7. Okay, 3D. No, these will be good. Here's our standard form. And this was our slope y-intercept. Okay. 3D asks us, what is the slope of a line that is parallel? Just the slope. Well, in standard form, I can't look at it and see exactly what the slope is. But I can in slope y-intercept form. What is the slope in this form? 1 over 2. X is not involved. So just 1/2. So our slope is 1/2. So a parallel line is a line that has the exact same slope. So what that means is the slope of a parallel line will be m is equal to 1 over 2. Does that make sense? Okay. E asks what's the slope of a line perpendicular. Okay, same idea. I got the slope of our line, which is a half. Perpendicular and this was parallel. Perpendicular. You need the negative reciprocal. Okay, so negative reciprocal. What that means is I put a negative in front of the term and I flip the fraction, whatever it is. Okay, so we'll call it x and y becomes y over x. Okay, so in this case, our 1 over 2, our new slope is negative 2 over 1. Our perpendicular slope would be negative 2 over 1.